All right, welcome in to a scheduled but also sort of a half emergency edition of the Mackey and Judd with Ramie happy hour, the quarantine happy hour. We are here to recap The Last Dance, episodes 1 and 2 on ESPN. And we got Mackey and Judd here, but also Ramie is the third part of our show, and we are more grateful now than ever that you grew up a Chicago Bulls fan during the 1990s. So let's just start off with initial thoughts. And by the way, we are following comments on SKOR North Twitter, Facebook, and Twitch, so we'll keep an eye on those. We want your thoughts on episodes 1 and 2. I thought it was amazing, but you guys fire away with your thoughts. We'll start with Ramie.
Dude, that was so good. So good. Brought back so many memories, so many emotions. There were various points during this where I was furious at people involved in this thing, had chills from memories of being in that stadium or watching those games back in that day, tears in my eyes, both of happiness and sadness. Like this thing, and we're only 2 parts into a 10-part series, guys, took me through a roller coaster of emotions and delivered and I don't know if it's just like the void in all of us with no live sports to watch, but this did so much for me tonight, guys. I needed this, and I needed it badly, and it delivered in every form and fashion possible.
It was fantastic. I have so many questions, and I'm thankful. But my first question is, think about this. The footage that we saw, Jordan golfing with Danny Ainge, which, God, that sat in a vault for how long? And the fact that the league itself got access to the 97, 98 Bulls, all of that behind the scenes stuff, and it never produced it until now. Like, we're seeing all of this stuff, and it's put together. And I love the tracking of that. It all comes back to the 97, 98 season, but I love the tracking of, now let's go back to Jordan as a kid in 68. Now let's go to Jordan's start or Pippen's start. There's so many things about this that are just incredible. And you do have to watch it closely, but to me, it has become, at least the first 2 episodes, I don't know how you guys feel about this, it's like a series of like vignettes and chapters in a book, and it's just so compelling. And I'm certainly not Mr. Basketball, but just the history of these guys, and Jordan especially, but Pippen and Jerry Krause and Reinsdorf, who almost comes off as likable, and I can't believe that he does. It's just great.
I thought
guys,
the most. Go ahead, Ramie. Go.
I got so wrapped up in this thing that I went ahead and, I don't know if I'm about to share something on our video chat here.
Cool.
I went ahead and just bought this thing. Hang on one sec.
Nice.
Just bought that. Just went ahead and bought that right there.
Nice.
That's how caught up in this I got. I got on eBay while I was watching it, went and bought that shirt because I saw it on my TV and it brought back childhood memories. I needed to have it immediately upon seeing it.
That's awesome.
That's amazing. Okay, the most telling thing to me was just how open and honest Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen were with the media. We're so. Hold on a second. My cat. I need to let my cat in the room because I'm in the room with the litter box and the door is closed and I see a paw. But hold on.
All right. First things first. I want to run the risk.
Yeah, he's not pooping in the sheets. Sorry, Tommy.
Good.
Go ahead, do your thing. So, like you watch these player press conferences now, and everyone is just going as far as they can to avoid saying anything meaningful or anything that's going to get picked up in a quote or a clip. And you had, after the 5th championship, at the podium with champagne still soaked on their shirts and hats, and they're being asked about contract situations and whether the 5th championship is the last one for the dynasty. And Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen are up there just firing shots at Jerry Krause in a national press conference setting, and it's not that long ago.
Dude, Scottie did a farewell speech. I forgot about this. Scottie did a farewell speech to start the 97-98 season. That was the home opener when they were giving out rings and putting the banners up in the rafters. And Scottie was like, "I won't have a chance to tell you this again, but I'm probably done playing for the Bulls." Like, that was insane. The drama surrounding that team was just off the charts.
Did you know? So as far as the fan base went at that time, how much did you guys know about how bad it was like the cat, about how bad things were fracturing quickly compared to what they're explaining now. So at that time, opening night of the 97-98 season, Ramie, how much did you actually know as a fan that this thing was sort of just falling apart? Because you knew something.
In the moment, we knew, but I had sort of honestly forgotten about a lot of all that, because we've been so far removed from it, and you tend to hang on to the glory and the happiness and the excitement of it. Like Phil said, and like I just pointed out, these guys were not hiding it. This was... You didn't see it before then, and you haven't seen it since then. Guys being so open and so honest about their unhappiness with the franchise while things were so good. Again, he started that season with a farewell speech. Like, that is the craziest thing that you can possibly imagine with a team that's going for their 6th title and has the greatest player in the history of the game.
Yeah, dude, it was some of the stuff in there, just and like, they're going to dive even deeper into it, but some of the stuff in there about Jerry Krause is so fascinating. And I almost he died in 2017, and like a part of me almost feels a little bad for him that he doesn't get a chance to at least speak on his own behalf in this documentary. But Ramie, was he, to what extent was Jerry Krause regarded as an architect who pulled the trigger on a couple great draft picks and made some great free agency moves, versus villain? Because when we see that footage and he's walking out to accept his championship moment or whatever after their 5th title, and they cheer Phil Jackson, they cheer Michael Jordan, they cheer Scottie Pippen, and the general manager that architected 5 championships gets booed inside United Center. What do you remember about the way people thought about Jerry Krause in the moment?
I think people recognized what he did for the Bulls and to put that team together, because and they pointed out in part 2 that we saw tonight, nobody was looking for Scottie Pippen when he drafted Scottie Pippen. Nobody thought Scottie Pippen was going to be that dude. Mm-hmm. Dennis Rodman was a misfit and a cast-off that nobody else in the league really wanted. He would find role players like B.J. Armstrong and John Paxson and Steve Kerr. Like, I don't think anybody doubted Jerry Krause's skills as a general manager and a talent evaluator and a roster builder, but it was clear that his ego got in the way, and he couldn't take, and they talk about this in the special too, he couldn't take that he didn't get, or what he thought was due credit or due glory, that it was all about Michael, it was all about Scottie, it was all about Phil, and he didn't get the glory in the spotlight. I think that was obvious to anybody involved, and by proxy, it was obvious to fans, and that's what they resented him for, that he let ego, and a lot of people let ego get in the way. But if there's anybody that you would say should put that aside for the greater good, you expect coaches to have a huge ego. You expect great players like Michael Jordan to have a huge ego. I think if there was anybody who Bulls fans hoped and expected would put that aside for the greater good and to keep this thing together, it would be the general manager, and he couldn't. And Jerry Krause is a nice guy, as they said in there, a great GM, but if there was a flaw, if there was a fault in his time as the Bulls GM, that was it, that he couldn't put his ego aside and just accept that he wasn't going to be the one to get the credit and the glory for all this.
Yeah. So in part 1, they briefly bring up the fact that there were some folks at that time going into that last year who felt that the Bulls were aging and that the construction of the roster around Jordan had to change. Is that absolutely true? Because, Pippen continued to play. If Jerry Krause had backed off and said, okay, if Phil comes back, Pippen will do what we can to keep him happy at that time, Jordan comes back. Was there a feeling that team, after that last title, truly had jumped the shark, or is that a bunch of BS, and could this team have won?
Well, real quick, because I've got the roster in front of me here.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Jordan was 34. LeBron James is 34 right now. And if there's, if look at the way Michael Jordan was still playing in his last season with the Bulls. Look at the way LeBron James is playing this season with the Lakers.
So what's around Jordan?
Pippen was 32. Pippen was in his freaking prime.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Judd, I don't think
that.
I don't think there's any question that team was still playing. I mean, they won the championship. So clearly there was no question that was a team that was still playing at a championship level. And if people involved, and again, the guy who you would expect to do this would be the general manager, but everybody involved to some degree let ego get in the way. And there was some long-standing bad blood between Jerry Krause and Scottie Pippen. And honestly, Scottie would never admit this, but both of them probably own and deserve some of that, if I'm being totally honest about it.
Yeah.
Jerry told Scottie when he signed that contract, he was like, look, you're not going to be happy with this contract in a year or two. And Scottie wanted the long-term security. He wanted the money. He wanted it now. And he signed the deal. And Jerry Krause wasn't going to back off from that.
Yeah. See, I think the only reason to blow a team up like that is if you're into the luxury tax so much that you're, just like the Warriors got to a point where, all right, we got to scale this thing back from a luxury tax perspective, or if the key players are all on the verge of going off the age cliff. But even then, don't you just ride over the cliff with them? Like, why would you, when you've already won 3 championships in a row and Michael Jordan is still only 34 and Pippen's only 32, like, other than your ego, which obviously in retrospect is the reason why Jerry Krause wasn't able to keep this thing together. And I do wonder if just fatigue of trying to fend off the Spurs and fend off the Lakers were on the verge of building their own dynasty in the late 90s, early 2000s. I do wonder if that would have been the Bulls' last championship either way, but it would have been super fun to find out, right? Like the fact that we didn't get a chance to find out how far could they have taken this thing? Could they have done 2 or 3 more?
And Tim Floyd too, by the way, Rami.
Oh my God, dude,
Floyd,
that story.
Tim Floyd's my guy.
Oh my God. He was inviting Tim Floyd to team trips, like while Phil was
wedding.
To his wedding.
His kid's wedding.
What are you doing? What are you even doing? But I mean, yeah, Mackey, eventually the run would have come to an end. Somebody would have bested that Bulls team eventually. And who knows, maybe the next year it would have happened. But I don't think there was any question that team still had another year or two of really, really competitive basketball in them. And who's to say that if Jerry Krause can swallow his pride and mend whatever fences he needs to fend with Scottie Pippen, that they don't find another piece to bring in and extend the run a little bit more, because it was clearly it was getting to the end of the road with Dennis Rodman. He has a shelf life for sure, and it was starting to get there with him. So there would have been changes, but Jerry Krause was a genius at assembling rosters, and who's to say that he doesn't find another player to bring in, a younger guy who can extend that run a little bit longer.
Yeah. Some people chiming in the comments here. Yeah. Chad says, so if Ramie has a kid, he's naming his kid Jerry, right?
I'd probably have to name him Jordan. My brother named his son Peyton. I'd probably have to name my kid Jordan.
Let's see here. Simon says, oh yeah, the Kenny Mayne fake Sports Center clip that they
that's a really good
changed
commercial,
his mouth or whatever.
That's a really good commercial.
That was awesome. Let's see here. Is it Baj 2081 on Twitter says MJ's take on organizations that tank was A++, going through that period where he was held to 7 minutes per half for like 2 or 3 weeks toward the end of the 1986 season. And I agree with him. If you're a team that has a chance to make the playoffs and you're just like you're tanking to get into the back half of the lottery, that's Timberwolves mindset. Now, if it's about tanking to get the number 1 overall pick so that you can get the LeBron James or whatever franchise changing player we're talking about, the Tim Duncan, okay, like have a season-long tanking plan. But if you're on the verge of and by the way, the Bulls were 30-52.
I was just going to say,
and still made the playoffs.
Michael was wrong on that one. Sorry, Michael, you were wrong on that. Losing was fine.
I don't think anybody was wrong there. If I don't want a player who believes in tanking. I don't want, and when I talk about tanking, I'm talking about from the front office on up. I don't want a coach who thinks about tanking. I don't want a player who thinks about tanking. Every time you go out onto the court or whatever field of play, you got to be trying to win. And honestly, I don't understand the motivation for a player or coach to be tanking, because who's to say that kid that you draft isn't going to come in and be better than you and take your job. You know what I mean? Like, I'm playing for me and the guys around me right now. I'm not thinking about who we might draft for next year. So I thought the Bulls and MJ were in the right there. They both were thinking about what they should have been thinking about. The Bulls were thinking about the future, and Michael was thinking about winning basketball games every time he stepped on the court. That's how it should be.
Yeah. The incredible thing about that entire storyline, and it's not brought up, is, and I had no clue till tonight, Michael Jordan was this side of being Sam Bowie himself. Because if
the injury,
if that goes, it's the same story. Now, part one, though, my favorite part, it's just brief, but it's great. So the Bulls, just pre-Jordan and into the time that he got there as a rookie, were called the Bulls Traveling Cocaine Circus. Gentlemen, that is so late 70s, early 80s NBA and sports. It's unbelievable. But that story of going in the room where he said there were basically lines of coke, there were guys smoking weed and girls in one room in some hotel in where Peoria, I believe he said they were playing an exhibition game. That is the NBA early 80s, late 70s, just in a nutshell right there. Traveling cocaine circus.
Some of that footage too of Michael Jordan just like hanging out in his first apartment after he signs with the Bulls, and he's got the super high basketball pants with a tucked in t-shirt, and he's just like making ramen noodles in his kitchen. Like, I mean, like the fact that a lot of that footage just sat there for 20 plus years is amazing. And cheap plug, by the way, we had Jason Hare is the director of The Last Dance. He also directed several other, the Chicago Bears 30 for 30, the Andre the Giant 30 for 30, and we had him on our show for 15 minutes on Thursday, and he talked about how and why Michael Jordan decided to finally green light this project, even though Michael Jordan says no to almost everything and like barely does any media. So cheap plug, Mackey and Judd with Ramie podcast, or brand new YouTube page from Thursday, and you can check that out. Some other questions coming in here. Steve Kerr said it best. This is from Brad. Jerry Krause did a great job putting the team together, but he couldn't get out of his own way. We already covered a lot of that. Oh, this part. This part from Bill on Twitter. Barack Obama listed as former Chicago resident in the lower third.
How great was that? Former Chicago resident who couldn't afford Bulls tickets in the stadium when Jordan got there. Yeah. That whole thing was so good.
Man, that and watching like when they were showing like the ticket takers and just like the buzz of the United Center, especially the old Chicago Stadium, when those Bulls teams were in their heyday. And I tweeted something to this effect. Basketball is my number 3 sport. Like if I'm ranking how much I love my sports, it goes baseball, football, basketball. But in my youth, even that being the case, I went to a ton of Cubs games, went to a few Bears games in my day. I had a friend who's my best friend at the time. His dad was, I've told you guys before, we didn't have money growing up. But my friend's dad was a big-time horse trainer at Arlington Racetrack, so he had ins with the Reinsdorfs for Bulls tickets, etc. So I was lucky enough to go to a bunch of Bulls games in those days, playoff games and everything. And there was, even with basketball being my number 3 sport, there was nothing bigger, nothing felt bigger and seemed as large as going to a Bulls game when Michael Jordan was playing for the Bulls. And I know it was probably like that when he went to other cities, but even though you had at least 41 of those, and with him and guaranteed playoffs every year, you had more than 41 of those, nothing felt as big or as electric as going to the Chicago Stadium or United Center to see Michael and the Bulls play. It was just such an experience. There was something in the air. I have chills right now just thinking about it.
Judd, is there any like they interviewed those 2 kids who said that they had a couple choices for their Christmas present, and they chose tickets to go watch Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen and Dennis Rodman. And you're right, from this side of the fence, just when Michael Jordan would come here once, maybe twice a year to Target Center, and it was obviously a huge event that sold out, and it's the hot ticket. Same with Kobe Bryant to some extent and LeBron James, but not to the level of Michael Jordan. Judd, Can you think of any Minnesota sports examples from a home crowd perspective that were like what Ramie's describing at the United Center 40 times a year with Michael Jordan? Because, I mean, people were pumped to see KG. I don't think it was on that level because he wasn't delivering championships. People loved watching Johan Santana and Kirby Puckett.
Kirby before that, yeah. No, because, and I don't know that this exists now, and the closest I think that we would have this, although I'm sure some Vikings fans would fight me, I think the closest that we probably had was the 2009 year with Favre. But Jordan, to me, when he played here, and I don't think LeBron has this now, and it's partially because he's on TV so much, and the exposure to guys now is so great, going back to Kobe as well. I'm telling you, when Jordan came here, it was basically the Bulls were the Beatles. And I don't know that LeBron and the Lakers or LeBron and the Cavs, I'm not saying they don't sell out and they aren't a big deal, but we are talking about an athlete that comes along maybe once or twice in a lifetime period across the board, including in your town or not. Now, in Ramie's case, you were fortunate enough to have that guy in Chicago and actually be able to go see him play quite a bit. But no, I mean, Kirby was huge. But the only time I can think of a year where it was like you sort of had this ultra star in your midst was probably Favre. And that was just because it was such a novelty. But I don't think that, for instance, Kirby was that guy. People loved him, but he felt like your neighbor or something, right?
Yeah.
And Santana was great, but I don't think he was, because you've got to be a star athlete, and then it's got to be raised by your cultural icon, which Jordan was. But those guys will probably be, I mean, as a kid, the only one who probably came close for me in a similar vein to Michael was Wayne Gretzky. But those guys probably come along once or twice in a lifetime across sports.
Yeah.
And so in this town, Favre's as close as we probably get to that cultural icon.
Yeah. By the way, if you're just jumping in, and thanks to everyone there was over 1,000 people watching this in the first 15 minutes. So thanks to everyone for hanging out with us here on this Mackey and Judd with Ramie Quarantine Happy Hour special edition, recapping The Last Dance episodes 1 and 2. And if you're new, Mackey and Judd with Ramie, you can hear us live on SKOR North, AM 1500 in the Twin Cities, or live.skornorth.com, or the SKOR North app. You can find us 4 to 6 o'clock. And tomorrow on SKOR North Live with Ramie Mackloff and a rotating cast of characters from SKOR North,
sir.
We have a big announcement to make about draft week on SKOR North. We'll do that off the top at noon. But Ramie, as you can tell by the Walter Payton photo in the background and the Chicago Bulls hat, he grew up a Chicago sports fan. And Simon wants to know, question for Ramie, how did you feel when the Bulls intro played and the music hit today at the beginning of the episode?
Darren Ravel tweeted that early today, and that was the perfect thing to start my day, guys. Am I biased in saying that to this day, like the music, the graphics, the announcer, and just the electricity of Michael Jordan and that Bulls team, again, this may be my bias talking. Is there a better intro / hype video than that right now? Like when you hear that music and the big voice guy go, and now, like that there is nothing that matches that, is there?
The only thing, and this is going to sound super nerdy, the answer is no. Like it's the best. It's the best package. But the only time I can ever remember like consistently getting goosebumps on that level is when like my favorite wrestlers will return after an 8-year hiatus and you hear their music, right? Where like The Rock's been gone for 8 years. And, yeah. Yeah.
No, they're not. It's the perfect packaging. But again, I think the key to the packaging was you were bringing a rock star on stage, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like a band. It wasn't just like, and now, the KG thing, Phil, was really cool. When KG would come out, people would go nuts, but it was a sport. It was a sporting event. Mm-hmm. This was a cultural event. And so I just think what the Bulls did was so special because Jordan is who? His Babe Ruth. He's basically Babe Ruth basketball.
Basically, yeah.
And just one thing quickly, because I saw this start on my Twitter timeline, and I'm sure it did for both you guys early this morning. This is 10 hours. This is awesome, okay? A good documentary is freaking awesome. I love it. But can we please not turn this into a referendum? And can we please stop with the Jordan LeBron comparisons off of this, please? It's the only thing that I ask. It's not part of the storyline. It has nothing to do with anything. It's a petty, stupid, tired. This is new material. Like, this is really cool. Can we please stop? Can we please let it go during this?
Okay, so I mostly agree that it's a tired debate. However,
I'm looking forward to the LeBron documentary if I'm still alive for it. Okay, that's all I'm saying is let's not turn it into that.
The new layer that we get and the new ammunition we get as part of this argument, we didn't get this much of a glimpse at Michael Jordan's leadership style and communication and doggedness. Like, everything about his personality is being shown in 10 hours now in a way that I think allows us to compare.
Come on, Mackey, back me up on this.
LeBron's life has been lived out publicly during the social media era. We know that he isn't as ferocious of a personality as Michael Jordan is, and so now that we see Michael Jordan's personality, it's another jump start for the debate.
The personality is probably more Kobe, right?
Yeah, I mean, Kobe took Jordan's personality and made it
like that mentality.
Yeah.
I'm just saying of all the things, this is great and it's fun to talk about. Can we please not turn it into a
Judd,
referendum of two great players?
I had stated that I'm not engaging in that debate until LeBron James retires, because it's just tired and I've done it enough. But in true MJ fashion, I came out of retirement today, and we're on the internet. We're on the internet, right? I talked some shit to LeBron people on Twitter today, and I'll go back to not doing it probably until next Sunday. But I couldn't help myself, man. I couldn't help myself in doing it today. I had to come out of retirement in the MJ LeBron debate today, and gave some LeBron fans to business. I had to. I'm sorry.
Well, I did see one.
Call me petty. It wouldn't be the first time.
You're petty.
I did see one person tweeted. I can't remember who it was. They tweeted, because even Larry Bird was saying, not just in the documentary, but like Larry Bird, when they showed the footage of him after the Celtics beat the Bulls in that '86 series, that boy, like we know Michael Jordan's coming. He just needs some help around him, right? And then Jordan, when he got the help around him, boom, starts winning championships. Well, LeBron James, without help around him, went to a NBA Finals with Mo Williams or Larry Hughes or whoever the hell it was as his sidekick. So I think we can put a wrap on this stupid debate.
Real quick, Mackey, because I know when LeBron got drafted and when he was dragging nobodies, like when he put that Cavs team where the second best player on his team was Boobie Gibson, when he was taking those teams to the finals, I was going, this guy, and even as an MJ stan and a diehard Michael Jordan fan, I was looking at LeBron and saying, this might be the first guy since MJ who I'll say was a better basketball player. But when you go to Miami and you team up with two fellow Hall of Famers and you get beat in the finals twice, that's why you're not MJ. And that will always be why you're not MJ. I'm sorry.
Can't
By the way, hey, quickly, the Bulls, can we please, when they are at least on the road, go back to the red? The Bulls red is so, I saw a few people saying those black jerseys were the bomb. Okay, no. Sorry about this. The red, classic red, though. Yeah, the black's fine, but the classic red, man, that's like a heritage uniform.
Dude, they had some black. Did they have black pinstripe jerseys at one point too? I feel like they put some pinstripes on those black ones at one point. Yeah.
What? Do you remember, Rami?
The black with the pinstripes, yeah. Those were kind of a mistake. The solid black was the way to go. I don't need the pinstripes. Right. We were trying a little too hard with the pinstripes.
All I'm saying is the classic red is just fantastic.
Well, let's put a wrap on this episode here, because
I think they should just wear these, guys. Hang on one sec. I think that they should just. I think they should just wear these. Let's go with these. Oh, is it working? Oh, no. It's not working, is it?
It's just a blackout.
My internet just froze, guys. I think it's a good time to probably wrap things up here.
It's over.
Way to go, Mackloff.
Sorry, guys.
Good try.
Here I was so impressed.
It just says not responding on my screen now. I don't see you guys. I hear you, but I don't see you.
Well, it was a good run. It was a good run.
I broke it. I broke the stream.
And with that, it's a wrap on the Mackey and Judd with Ramie quarantine happy hour. And we're just going to make this a regular thing now after each Sunday night Last Dance viewing on ESPN. It's amazing. By the way, how weird is it to just hear like F-bombs on ESPN? Anybody else?
You know what? Can we get past being so afraid of that word now? Because it's quite clear. Jordan was basically, I think Jordan was told, don't use it too much, but if it's necessary, do it. Because every time he dropped an F-bomb, it was an exclamation point effective.
Sure.
You know what, Judd? You're right. I'm going to do it tomorrow on SKOR North Live.
Drop an F-bomb?
Yep. Right out the gates. Tune in.
Ramie, I don't want to work. Ramie, I work enough. Don't do that. I don't need more hours. I'm good. I'm solid. Thank you.
All right, before Ramie gets us all fired, we're going to say
SKORNorth.com and the SKOR North app.
11 a.m. vent line. Don't forget vent line, 11 a.m. Bye. See you guys.
See you guys.
See you, boy.